My delightful coffee and some good friends, and we're here to talk about student life here at Heritage. My name is Dan Schell, and I am the marketing and graphic design manager here at this amazing place, and I'm glad you can either tune in or watch this later. I'm going to be monitoring the video, so if you guys have questions or if you want to ask something specifically, don't hesitate. Just let us know what your questions are, and we'll be happy to answer them. So I am joined by some good friends here from the Student Services Department. We're excited to talk to you more about student life. So without further ado, I'll let them introduce themselves. So go ahead.
My name's DJ Muta. I'm the Dean of Student Services here. And I'm an alum of the school, graduated from the college as well as the seminary, and have sort of been connected with the school, including all my time here as a student, about 13 years now.
I'm Dan Allen, and this is my wife. We're the residence directors here. We're going to our third year, also taking some classes alongside some of the students here. So we're happy to be here, and hopefully we can answer some questions for you guys.
And I'm Katie, like David said before, and we are in a married position, so we get to work with each other in this role, and we're really excited about it. And if you have any questions for residents, feel free to type them in the comments bar, and as we're going along, we'll feel free to answer them and anything that you guys might have.
Yeah. Great. So we're just going to dive right in and just talk about student services. What is student services? What's the mission, and why we have student services, what they are specifically. So, DJ, do you want to talk about that and briefly explain what student services is and what it's all about?
Yeah. Well, I would say as you're thinking about coming to a Bible college, an academic institution, probably one of the first things that you're thinking about is the courses that you're going to be taking, the homework that you're going to have. Moving away from home is probably going to be part of that if you're planning to live in the residence. And really the student services team, we try to make that transition from high school into your undergraduate program, degree, certificate, whatever you're planning or thinking of doing, really as smoothly as possible, and just trying to help in any way we can. Service is right in the title because we really see the role that we get to play as a service to you, the student, and we just try to serve in any way we can. So one of the sort of key components, I guess, of our role is trying to build and create and foster a healthy community here on campus, a culture that is welcoming, that as students come here, whether it's the first day they arrive here on campus or 3 years into the degree, that they're excited to be here, that there's a vibrant community that's taking place on campus. And as you're away from home, it's a place that you feel at home in a sense. And so that's kind of in general what I guess as a student services team we're trying to create and are really passionate about for our students. So.
Cool.
Yes.
One of the ways that we do that is through the Christmas banquet that's coming up this November, actually. We're really excited about that. That's something that Student Services tries to put on for the students, and it's another way, as DJ was saying, to foster that community. So we're looking forward to it, and that's something that we've done for years and years and years, and it's fun. We have a photo booth, and take pictures, and there's a dinner and a program, and it's just another opportunity for us to foster that community that we're looking to and grow in, and all those sorts of things.
Do you have anything to add?
That was great.
That was great. So, as they said, there's just so many different elements to student services and how we try to foster that community. And one of the ways we do that is, and one of the, I guess, the biggest focus, like DJ touched on, is the spiritual growth and really fostering this culture of discipleship here at the school. So, whether you're in dorm or in the bean or in the classroom, wherever you are on campus, we really try to foster that community. So, can you, I guess, talk about some of the ways that we specifically do that, whether it be local church commitment, prayer and worship on campus, maybe even impact groups. You guys, I'll leave it to you guys to chime in wherever you want on that, but can you talk about that a little bit more?
Speak to impact groups. Do you want to speak to impact
Yeah,
groups?
Sure. Yeah, so impact groups are basically small groups that consist of about 10 students per impact group, and they're led by their RA, their resident assistant. So the way it works is these groups are designed to basically create long-lasting relationships, hopefully, that last longer than just these walls here at Heritage. So the RA basically leads a devotional or Bible study, and it's a time of fellowship and just time for prayer and really hanging out and getting to know one another in a safe environment that you're like, if you go deep like in your relationships and stuff, it's going to be confidential. You can open up and really just share who you are, like what God's done in your life, and it's just a really great time. And we've heard so many students that have benefited from it, and that happens every Monday night from 9:45 to 11. But it's always a good time.
And that's for the students that are in dorm. And then also it's open up for commuter students. So if you're not planning to live in dorm, there's also an opportunity to join an impact group. And commuter students have really benefited from that as well. So that's opened up for that too.
I think other ways to the impact groups are certainly one way. We have chapels twice a week here on campus, so Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays is our all-institutional chapels. Usually our president, Dr. Reed, he speaks at a number of those Tuesday chapels or gets some other speakers in. Thursday chapels, we have a college chapel that meets as well as a seminary chapel, and they meet in different locations. This year for our college chapels, we've been having our faculty speak on heroes of the faith, and so people that have really impacted them in their lives, whether that be people that have been mentors to them personally that they know, or people that they've read about that have maybe lived years ago, but someone that had a deep impact on them through their learning, and that's been good. It's allowed our students to see a different side of their faculty, see a very real side of their faculty, and just be able to relate with them at a different level. And so that's certainly one area. Also part of our chapel times is there's always time of singing as well, led by two of our chapel teams. And so we have a great time musical worship together as well, which is of course a highlight and something that our students are able to be involved in as well. Other forms of opportunities to grow spiritually on campus. We have a vibrant student council that puts on a number of events throughout the week. These can range from worship nights. They could be a fun night in the gym. They could be a crazy night running around campus playing capture the flag or something like that. But these are meant to just be in community with each other, have fun, hang out, have good conversations, worship together, pray together, just do life with each other. And one thing that we recognize, and I think you'll quickly realize as a student here, is that just as much learning goes on in the classroom as it does outside of the classroom. And so the chapel times, times hanging out with friends, conversations that happen with your faculty in the hall, these are times that you're learning just as much as when you're sitting in a classroom from 9 to 11 on a Tuesday morning. These conversations that may happen in dorm at midnight, you're continuing to learn even during those times, and so just creating that type of atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. And that and it's creating these elements, but it's also organic too in one way, right? Like, it just, the community grows together, and I think that's one of the exciting things for me, just coming in and starting here, is watching the students grow and encourage one another spiritually and personally throughout the whole time here, and it's been encouraging to see that, and it's a great bonus for a lot of the students that way. By the way, do you want to say hi to Caleb?
Hi, Caleb.
Caleb? Where's Caleb?
I think he's napping. I don't know.
Caleb parked in my parking spot last night.
He parked in your parking spot.
So, anyways,
that happened.
He's trying to make it up to me.
Sleeping in.
We have great friendships here at campus.
There you go. They're just, it's sharing is what it is.
Yes.
It's good.
He's one of our extras.
So can you, I guess, maybe you talked about student council and talked about like the different events that they do. What's their role specifically? Maybe how do students get involved with that, and what are some other things that they do on campus that are kind of built into that culture? Like we were just talking about some hardcore ping pong action that happened.
Shout out to the student council last night.
You guys threw a killer event.
No one got hurt, which was miracles
We didn't
happened. Killer ping pong tournament. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people showed up. We basically had teams and got to dress up in matching outfits or whatever. So it was a lot of fun. Some funny outfits. Jill and Maddie dressing like an old married couple. Classy. But no, just even simple things like that. It just gives a time for students that are on campus who are constantly studying and like diving into God's Word. Like honestly, it can get really busy, and it's just a good out for them to relax and just take a break from studies. As good as they are, like we need to take a moment, just kind of like refresh and have some fun. And student council does a really great job at that, and we really appreciate them here in student services with all the stuff that they go into planning events.
And last week was local outreach week, and Shannon did a great job preparing for that and all the work that went into that. There's something that Heritage really wants to do and create opportunities for us to take what we know in the classroom and really put it into practice. So that's for local outreach week. So they went out into the community, handed things out to them, talked with people. It was just a really great time putting into practice what we learned. So the student council really does a good job at even getting us to grow, pushing us outside of our comfort zone, but also coming together for those fun events and stuff like that too. So.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up the outreach element of it too, that it's connecting to the community, and that's one of the amazing things too of watching student life here is not only to grow a heart for wherever God has them going next, but within the city of Cambridge, and especially going into the nations as well. Like it's amazing to see the work that they're doing to encourage each other to have a heart for the gospel to go globally as well. And it's really encouraging to see a bunch of young people really sparked about that, and to allow God to work in their heart and to challenge them and convict them on those points. Did you have any other?
Yeah, I think one thing that student council is a big part of is we have four actually main emphasis weeks here on campus. We have spiritual life emphasis in September. We just, as Katie mentioned, had local outreach week this past week. And then next semester we'll have our global outreach, our missions week in February, and then we have an arts week in March. And so local outreach, global missions, and arts. These committees are run by student council members, and they basically oversee kind of the events that happen on campus during this week. And we usually have, so central to that is usually the chapel services that happen that week. Usually there's a speaker that comes and speaks all 3 days. We have chapel on Wednesday that week as well. And then outside of the chapel, we have special events pertaining to those weeks. So as Katie mentioned, they did some local outreach events, had some gospel conversations with people in the village of Hesper last week. For our missions week, we have an international soccer tournament, which is always a highlight, and usually a huge cake auction at the end of the week. To raise money. I know it sounds crazy, but we're to raise money for short-term missions that happen that our students are going out and being a part of in the summer. Is just a way to raise some money for them. And I mean, you'd be surprised. It's not like they're raising $1,000. They're raising $8,000 at this event. And so to see students, the staff, the faculty getting behind these events, it's really awesome. And it's a great. Those weeks are just such a highlight. I think missions week in general has been sort of talked about as sort of one of the most memorable sort of weeks on campus, and so that's been really neat to see. And really behind that, obviously as staff and faculty, we're encouraging, but it's really neat to see the students really take the lead on those events and organizing it, and they're the enthusiasm behind it. So that's really neat to see. And these are second, third, fourth year students, so that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Does somebody want to maybe talk about our intramurals here as well? I know when I've been out on the road, that's one of the common questions I get too in terms of intramurals on campus and how that works and what I guess we offer too.
Tonight we've got basketball. Shout out to my team. We just redid them, so I don't know what color team I am, but
You know who you are.
Shout out to his team, yeah. It's good.
Dave is a big basketball.
it's the only sport that I'm actually decent at. So.
Good at. He's very good at it.
But so the school has an athletics chair on student council. Shout out to Noggs out there for this year's chair for that. But so there's we have like indoor soccer. We've got basketball, volleyball. Help me out. We've got. Is it floorball? I'm American. Like a variation of hockey indoors. Kind of thing. Yeah, so different things like that are the mainstream ones that we have on campus, but those are on Tuesday and Thursday nights, which is really, really fun. And it's just another one of those like outings that students can look forward to, like to have a little bit of like release, like burn some energy and just get out of the day-to-day tedious stuff.
And part of that's community too, right?
Yeah,
like you're
it's great.
Together and just having a blast together, and it's just, again, it's fostering that community that's so important to everything we do here at Heritage. We really wanted to be a family, and that's something we hear from a lot of alumni from the college and seminary, right? It's these relationships that go beyond your time here. It's these relationships that encourage you and build you up, and wherever God has you going, whether it be in ministry or the workplace or overseas, it's that community at Heritage that continues to build into you, and that's the exciting thing to see happen for people that come here and then experience that after wherever they go. So let's take some time and talk about residents. So you guys are the residence directors. What's your role?
Okay, so our role, it can be seen in like two parts. So and those two parts would be basically oversight and availability. So oversight, Katie and myself, we oversee the residence buildings, and within that, like the students that live on campus. And then we do have a team of RAs that help us to manage that task, because there's about 80 students on campus, so it'll be pretty big task for just the two of us. So they help us to kind of like manage that. And then, so the other part would be the availability. Katie and I do live on campus, so we actually live in the residence buildings as well. So we're here almost 24/7. In case, so that means we'd be outside of like regular office hours. In case there were ever like an emergency that happened on campus, Katie and I would be available in case something like that ever were to happen. And that also extends to basically just fellowship with the students, getting to walk alongside of them and building relationships. And it's just great to see like the students coming in, like, and kind of like God taking them from point A to point B as they go through each semester. And it's a really good time. We feel like it keeps us young. And
We are young.
Hey, it's working. But no, it's really good. So oversight, like overseeing and being available, would be the two spheres that kind of encompass what we do as residence directors.
Yeah, and I'll say too, like, we love what we're doing. It doesn't even feel like a job, because we get to hang out with these guys back here 24/7, and we just feel so blessed to get to be part of the students' lives for, a year, maybe 4 years, and we just feel really honored to be able to walk alongside of them, journey with them, seeing what they were when they were freshmen to when they leave. There's just so much growth that takes place here, and it's just, we feel what a privilege it is to be able to serve here, so we love it.
So just kind of to all three of you then, like, what are some of the things that you would say are beneficial? So if a student's thinking about it and is thinking about residence here, what would you say are like the major benefits to living on campus?
So I think of like three main ones. The primary one being just like we've been talking about, community. It's really like a family here, and once you come here, it's like you're welcomed right away. Like in about 48 hours, you know almost everybody's name, and you're making friends and everything, and hanging out, and really just sharing like interests and things you have in common, all that kind of stuff. And it's just great. Like everyone here, you know, is here to pursue God's word, to come more grounded in their faith, and it's just encouraging to see that. So the community being one thing. Another thing would be just the fact that it's stretching. Like you're going to be living with people who come from different walks of life, different upbringings, maybe people that think a little bit differently from you. So with that, inevitably comes a little bit of healthy conflict or friction, which inevitably makes you face that and have like conflict resolution and just being able to experience that, which I think is huge. And thirdly, it's just like a safe place to practice being adult, like maturing outside of your parents' house. A lot of people that come here, it's their first time away from home, and this is just like a safe, contained environment where they can, explore their faith for themselves and like learn how to adult per se kind of thing, which is it's really cool to see, and it's really fun to get to know them and walk alongside them in that and hear the stories that come out of that.
Yeah, and I'll say too, like being in dorm, you get, like Dan was saying, that community, but you're also having that community when you're in the classroom with the teachers, and they have their doors open like all the time when they're here. So it's a safe place to journey in your faith, get the answers that you're looking for, and then you can even go back to dorm, say, oh, I learned this from my teacher, and then there's this healthy discussion. You're growing in your faith with other believers. So residence life is awesome. Sign up.
Yeah, I think too, one of the things that comes to mind is not missing out, or not fear of missing out on something. Some of the events that we've talked about, take place more in the evening. So if you had a morning class, if you're a commuter student, you may go home in the afternoon and not be around in the evening, which, some will try to come back, but that's not always possible. And so being on campus just allows you to be involved as much as possible, and to be able to participate in those events that are happening sort of off hours. And then the other thing I'd say too is, you think of a Bible college, and you think of all these Christian students coming here, and I've been around Bible college long enough. None of us are perfect Christian students, and I think one thing that Heritage does well is trying to create a safe environment for people like us, students that are broken people and are still working through their own mess in their lives. And we try to be a community that is encouraging and willing to work through those things. And so, I think one thing, we can have a nice, happy conversation about community and dorm life, and kind of paint a really nice picture. But at the same time, as Dane said, there's sometimes friction, and there's going to be conflict, and sometimes just our own issues that we're dealing with are going to come up. And this has been a restorative place for people to work through some of those things, and a healthy place that way too. And so that is something that I think is a real benefit to a community that is wanting to grow together, challenge each other. Be open to calling a brother or sister out, and saying, hey, this is an area that I think God could be, that God needs to be at work in your life, and are you willing to do that? And that kind of relationships happening
in a healthy and safe environment, right?
Yeah.
So that's good. So what comes with residence? So if somebody's saying, what's in the room? What do I get? What practically, what do you get with residence?
So there's three, each resident, each apartment we hold 5 people in it. So we've got 3 bedrooms, 2 of which hold 2 students, and then the 5th room we have for our student majors. Typically, we would have them in their room by themselves, kind of thing. There's a full kitchen in each apartment, so that if you did want to have a little midnight snack, you know what I'm saying? College life, you have that luxury. And there's a little common area where sometimes people bring a couch or something, but a table and chairs there where people can hang out and play games or just read and chat, like those midnight conversations that BJ was talking about. And there's obviously like a bathroom, a shower room, and that kind of thing. But
Yeah, everything's really contained. You don't have to go down the hall to use the bathroom.
Right.
You have your own kitchen. You're not using a public kitchen space. We do have a cafeteria on site, so most of the meals that students, again, throughout the week are at the cafeteria. The cafeteria isn't open on the weekends, though, so that's partly too why we have the full kitchens in their apartments so that they can cook their meals when the cafeteria is not open. And some students do, cook some of their meals still in their apartment as well.
That we do have a laundry room within the residence building. Like, there's not separate laundry room in each apartment, but there in each building we do have a laundry room in the basement where there's washers and dryers for people to do their laundry and all of that. And we do have a student lounge right across from that in the basement of each residence building where students can, there's TV in there, they can watch a movie or play games or just hang out, or if they're looking for a quieter place to study, that's always an option if they don't want to go to the library. Yeah.
That's great. So if somebody's hearing all this and being like, yeah, that's where I want to be. I want to be in residence when I go to Heritage. How do they apply? How do they do that? How does that work?
So we do have a website.
It's got to take a coffee break here. It's good.
That's water. So if you go to discoverheritage.ca, and there is a section for residents, and basically you click that, and there is an online application that you can do to apply for residence. And Katie and myself, we receive those, and we have a team that kind of like processes all of the information that you guys give, and we basically, after all the bases are covered, you'll hear back from us, and that's pretty much the way it goes. The application process will be the amount of students that we accept. We basically hold 20 spots for returning students, 20 spots for new students for both buildings. We can hold about, I think, we can hold 85 max into the buildings, but it's a first come first served basis. So we already have like a lot of people applying and like returning and that kind of thing. So we want to apply sooner rather than later. Even our student center, we've got like 30 people showing up and all that good stuff. So that's the way that we go through the application process and that kind of thing. So it's better to get your name, your application in there as soon as you can, because it does fill out really quickly. I don't know if there's anything that we should add to that.
I think just that to be accepted into residence, you have to be accepted as a student first as well, so that would be something. Otherwise that's sort of it's a fairly straightforward process.
I think the main thing is don't hesitate.
It's true. Yeah.
I think that the best thing, like Dane said, is to sign up as fast as you can if you're interested in residence life. Sign up as fast as you can and make that like right at acceptance, right? At acceptance, that's your next step. Is don't wait. Is to decide to that it's important, right? And as you heard, it's a valuable experience. Through even the highs and the lows, it can be a valuable experience for you. So it is good. So let's talk maybe more about other elements of student services. So we were saying there's a lot of moments here at Heritage where you learn about yourself, or you might have more questions, or you are growing personally. And there's a lot of services here that we offer that help with that. Not just with the professors, but also in terms of counseling and other options like that. So do you want to briefly talk about that, DJ? Or?
Yeah, so we have a counselor on staff as part of our student services team, and she's part-time faculty and part-time counselor, and so you'll likely have her in one of your classes as well, teaching that. But she is here to do sort of personal counseling. She does a little bit of academic counseling as well. But she is available to our students to meet with them throughout the semester and just to work through different issues that they may be facing. either currently or maybe some past issues that they're dealing with as well. And sometimes, as students make a transition from home to college, to an institution like ours, they're recognizing maybe some areas in their life that they need to work on, maybe kind of didn't realize were there or holding them back before. And so our counselor, Nancy, has been able to work alongside these students and just help them really succeed at being here as a college student and just continue to grow themselves into the young man or the young woman that God's called them to be. So that's kind of on a counseling side. Another area that really is sort of a new initiative for us, you alluded to the Student Learning Center. And this is sort of partnering with the library and the academic side. But it's really, the purpose of it is just to provide opportunities for students to come and get help, get support in their academics, so they can actually bring like a paper that they're working on or an assignment that they're doing, bring it to the Learning Center, and at select times during the week there's actual staff there or students that are peer readers that you can go over a paper with them. Jordan Senecal is leading that right now. He's one of our seminary students, and he has designated times where he's there to go over these papers, give them feedback. You can't get him to write it himself and give it back, but point out areas that maybe you want to rewrite this paragraph. It's just not clear here. Those types of pointers. Maybe it's something like I've never had to write a bibliography. Where do I start? And so just sort of working through those types of scenarios that maybe you don't face every day. I don't write a bibliography every day, and so those types of that help is there. Also, our library staff is very knowledgeable and helpful, and helps out with those types of things. I know as a first year student, I was completely intimidated at the library. Like, walk in, there's just all these books. And but talking to our librarians and staff that are there to be able to help you source what you need, recognizing that even if it's not in our current library, the electronic database that we have access to, being able to research, for the assignments that you'll have. There's just a lot in those areas, just a lot of help and support that again just really help our students succeed. And,
you grow personally and academically too, right? Like that's such an important part of studying here and being a part of the community too, is that we're all learning new things, whether it's how to properly format a bibliography or even just how to, there's so many different formats. It's important to have services like that, and it's a big part of it. So any other elements that you want to highlight? I know we have some services that are available also for off-campus. So maybe you're in the Cambridge area, you're looking to take a few other courses. What other ways, I guess, can we support off-campus students that might want to be at home and commute in? We do offer some of those, right?
Yeah, for sure. One Ariel Muta, who's actually my sister-in-law, not to be confused with my wife. She's related, but she works with our off-campus students and keeps them informed on the different activities that are going on, and just make sure that they know that they're invited to these events because they're not on campus every day. Letting them know when things are happening and how they can continue to be involved. Sometimes as well, she's been able to help in, maybe it's someone that isn't so sure about living in res, maybe they're a little bit older, maybe they've already lived on their own and they're not sure about living in a room with 4 or 5 other guys or girls. And so she's been able to help them sometimes find some living accommodations in the area. So we have a few students that do sort of live in the area off campus that way, and so she's great at keeping them informed. She has an email that goes out, it's every other week or at least monthly though, that's kind of helping with that, and then doing some other activities that way.
Like we said before too, like the off-campus students are able to join an impact group, like we mentioned earlier, so they can be part of residence life and join that way. So that's something that's helpful.
We do see like a lot of commuters participate in like the intramurals and stuff like that. It is easier like if you do live here, but there are the faithful few that make the commute and brave the storm in the winter. But no, like we do see commuters that come after that, those kind of things too. So it's always like that.
I mean, like to face top-notch basketball competition like yourself, you're gonna travel in order to.
I mean, bets will be placed, okay? No, by no stretch of the imagination.
So, I guess to wrap it up, if each of you can talk about, I guess, like what's one of the most beneficial things about student life, or one of your favorite things about student life here at Heritage? I know with you being the graduate here, the college and seminary, I guess for you, from your perspective, what was big for you in student life?
Oh man, that wasn't on the sheet that you provided with in preparing for this.
I'm improvising, yeah.
You know, this may seem obvious, I guess, in the, you know, with working here now at the school, but I really do believe that my time spent in community here as a student just prepared me just so well for my now life in ministry. And obviously for me right now, that intersects at Heritage, and there's, you know, that's a kind of nice neat package. But I really do believe too, if that were to one day be in a church context, that I would see God lead us to, or the mission field, for example. Just the interpersonal skills, the opportunity to work through conflict, to have good friends that 10 years later I'm still connecting with, that I lived in the same dorm room with, and still have really solid friendships from that. The relationships that I have with past professors, or even people that worked in student life at the time. Just seeing how they have impacted my life and really, you know, shaped and formed me into the person that I am, and that I see God has used to really design those people at that time in my life, just in a real instrumental way.
Honestly, like one of the better parts, like benefits, in my opinion, would just be, I guess, being a part of the student's story that God is writing. Like we've mentioned it a couple times back and forth, but just like seeing them when they first came in here, and like just seeing God working them through the classes that they take, and through things like impact group, or just those late night conversations that take place. You can see change happening gradually, and honestly, sometimes it's like you make really good lasting relationships even with the students here. It's really cool to think that what they're learning here and what they're doing here is going to prepare them in some way for life outside of Heritage, whether they go into full-time ministry or whether they go into a non-ministry type job. Like, we're all Christians and we're all called to spreading God's truth and to love on others. And it's really cool to get to know the people, because they're really cool and genuine guys and girls that come through these doors, and it's an honor to get to walk alongside them.
Cool.
And also, too, one of the benefits just for us personally would be us being able to grow. We're very much imperfect human beings, and we get to be stretched and molded and grown and shaped, and it's cool that we get to be part of this environment to do that, to learn alongside the students, to have them even encourage us, challenge us in our growth and our walk with Christ. So that's something that we've noticed, that we're able to just grow in that way, and we're very thankful that the Lord has given us this opportunity to do that. So.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here and sharing all about student life at Heritage. If you have any questions at all, you can still post some questions or send us an email. And obviously go to discoverheritage.ca. We got a lot of information up there, and you can even start your application now for 2020. So feel free to do that, and if God's leading you to that, we're praying for you, and we really hope to see you next year as well. I'm really excited. I wanted to give a shout out to Beth at the Bean for introducing me to an AeroPress latte. That was a nice treat as we had this conversation. Thanks to the H for having us here, and again, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you soon.